Okay, so last time, wow. 5 brutal murders. A city completely on edge.
Yeah.
And the police using criminal profiling.
Right.
Trying to get inside this killer's head.
Yeah.
It really was a different world back then, wasn't it?
It was, but it's pretty remarkable how they used Dr. Bond's profile.
Yeah.
It wasn't just an idea. Like, they actually tried to use it in the investigation.
So this was a pretty revolutionary idea at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Trying to get inside the mind of a killer.
It was. You're right. Absolutely revolutionary. Bond's profile, wasn't perfect.
Right.
But it helped shift the focus.
Okay.
From just looking at the physical evidence to understanding the psychology, the motivations of the killer. And while it didn't lead to Jack the Ripper being caught,
right,
it laid the groundwork for future criminal profiling techniques that we still use today.
That's amazing to think about.
Mm-hmm.
This case, as horrific as it was, actually kind of pushed forward how we think about crime.
Exactly. And it highlights how, even in really dark times, there can be these glimmers of innovation, of progress.
Okay, so we've seen the horror of these crimes. We've seen how the police were trying to use new techniques to catch this guy.
Right.
But were they successful?
Well, unfortunately, no. Despite Bond's insights and all the effort, they put forth, Jack the Ripper was never caught.
It's both fascinating and frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah.
That this killer was just out there terrorizing London, and they just couldn't catch him.
It is, and that lack of a conclusion
Right.
it just added to this enduring fascination with the case.
Absolutely. It's what keeps people, reading about it, researching it, even coming up with their own theories about who he was.
Yeah, it's a mystery that continues to just grip the imagination. And while we may never know for sure who he was, the story of Jack the Ripper, it serves as a reminder of this darker side of Victorian London.
Yeah.
A time of great social and economic upheaval.
Yeah. It's hard to even imagine what life was like in Whitechapel back then.
Yeah.
Can you paint us a picture? How did that environment maybe contribute to the Ripper's crimes?
Well, imagine like a district teeming with people, most of them living in abject poverty.
Right.
The streets were crowded, sanitation was poor, disease was rampant. For a lot of people, the only way to survive was crime, or in the case of a lot of women, prostitution.
Right.
And it created this sense of desperation and lawlessness that someone like Jack the Ripper could easily exploit.
So it's not just about the individual killer, but also the societal factors, that led to these crimes happening in the first place.
Exactly. And it's something we still grapple with today, right? How do we address the root causes of crime, poverty, inequality,
right,
to make a safer and more just society? It's complex, but the Ripper case definitely brings it to the forefront.
All of this must have been like a field day for the newspapers.
Oh, yeah.
How did the media handle this case?
Well, the Ripper case wasn't just a crime, it was a media sensation. The rise of mass circulation newspapers.
Right.
It meant that news, especially sensational news, could spread like wildfire.
So they were all over this.
Absolutely. And they weren't always, super careful about separating fact from fiction. You had headlines screaming about the latest gruesome details,
right,
speculation about who the killer was, and even the publication of some of the Ripper letters, which, may or may not have been real.
Those letters, that's something we definitely need to unpack. Hundreds of letters were sent to the police and the press, right?
Hundreds, claiming to be from the killer.
Hundreds, yeah, and it's important to remember that most of them were quickly dismissed as hoaxes.
Right.
Probably from people seeking attention or trying to capitalize on the fear.
Yeah.
But there are a few that stand out.
Okay.
That have become, almost as infamous as the murders themselves.
So which ones are we talking about here? Well, there's the Dear Boss letter.
Right.
This is where the name Jack the Ripper first appears.
Right.
This is the letter that really launched the killer into, infamy.
It's the name that's echoed through history, right?
It has.
A name it means terror and mystery.
Yeah. And this letter, it also contained a chilling detail. The author promised to clip the lady's ears off.
Okay.
And just a few days later, Catherine Eddowes was found with a portion of her ear cut off.
Oh, wow. That must have sent chills down everyone's spines.
Yeah.
It seemed to confirm that the letter was real, that he was playing games with the police.
It did, although, it's worth noting that Eddowes' ear was likely cut off accidentally during the attack.
Right. Yeah.
And the killer never did send any ears to the police.
So another piece of the puzzle that doesn't quite fit, but it definitely adds to the intrigue.
Absolutely. Then there's the Saucy Jackie postcard,
Okay.
postmarked October 1st, 1888.
Right.
The handwriting was similar to the Dear Boss letter,
Okay.
and it referenced the double event, the murders of Stride and Eddowes.
Okay.
So this postcard, it also seemed to suggest that the author knew things about the crimes before they were public knowledge.
Right.
That's what some people believe, yeah. But the postcard was postmarked more than 24 hours after the murders.
Right.
So the details could have easily been known by then. It's another, clue that leads to more questions than answers.
So 2 letters down, 1 to go. What's the third letter?
This one's pretty intense. It's called the From Hell letter.
Okay.
It was sent to George Lusk,
Right.
the leader of the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee.
Okay.
And it came with a rather disturbing package.
So this letter came with a rather disturbing package. I remember reading something about a kidney.
Yeah, you're right. The letter arrived with a small box containing half a human kidney,
Wow.
preserved in ethanol.
Gosh.
The author claimed to have fried and ate the other half.
Oh my gosh.
Now remember that Catherine Eddowes, her left kidney was removed.
Right. Right. Oh wow. That's disturbing. Did they ever determine if it was actually Eddowes' kidney?
They tried, but the technology just wasn't there. Some experts believe it was hers, others think it was a cruel hoax. We may never know for sure.
Another mystery within a mystery. It seems like every time we try to unravel one thread of this case, another one appears.
It's the nature of the case, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Despite all the letters, all the suspects, all the scrutiny,
Right.
Jack the Ripper just vanished into the fog, His true identity remains a mystery to this day.
Okay, so we talked about the victims, the investigation, the media frenzy, the letters.
Right.
What about the lasting impact of all of this?
Yeah.
What did this case do to society's understanding of criminal behavior? Did it change things?
Yeah, the Ripper case, it had a profound and lasting impact
Right.
on society in so many ways. First, it really shone a light on the horrifying social conditions
Right.
in London's East End. The poverty, the overcrowding, the lack of sanitation.
Right.
These were all factors that created an environment where someone like Jack the Ripper could thrive.
So it wasn't just about catching a killer, but also confronting these societal problems
Yeah.
that allowed him to exist in the first place.
Exactly. The murders, they sparked outrage, they sparked demands for social reform.
Right.
And in the decades that followed, there were significant efforts to improve housing, sanitation, and social services in the East End. So as tragic as it was, it ultimately led to some positive change.
It's a silver lining to an otherwise very dark cloud.
Yeah.
But how did it change our understanding of criminal behavior itself?
Well, remember how we talked about criminal profiling earlier?
Yeah.
The Ripper case, while not the first to use it, it really brought it into the mainstream.
Right.
It showed that understanding a killer's psychology,
Uh-huh.
their motivations,
Yeah.
could be just as important as finding physical evidence.
It seems obvious now.
Yeah.
But back then it was a huge shift in thinking, right?
Absolutely. And while it didn't directly lead to the capture of Jack the Ripper, it did pave the way for, the development of modern criminal profiling techniques
Right.
that are still used today in investigations all over the world.
That's pretty incredible. It's like this horrific case also accidentally spurred on a whole new way of thinking about crime and criminals.
Yeah.
But what about the media?
Uh-huh.
We talked about how they were all over this case, but did that have any lasting effects?
Well, the Ripper case didn't just give birth to criminal profiling.
Okay.
It also gave birth to the modern true crime genre.
Mm-hmm.
Before the Ripper, crime reporting was, pretty dry, pretty factual.
Right.
But with the Ripper, newspapers realized that a sensational crime, especially one with a mysterious killer,
Right.
that could sell papers like hotcakes.
So this was like the original true crime obsession.
You could say that, yeah. And that obsession, it's only grown over time. We see it everywhere today with books, documentaries, podcasts, even fictionalized accounts of the Ripper case.
Yeah.
It's a story that just won't let go of our collective imagination.
I get it. It's like a historical cold case that everyone wants to crack.
Yeah.
But why Jack the Ripper? Why has this case resonated with people for so long?
I think it's a few reasons. First, it's the mystery, the fact that he was never caught.
Yeah.
His identity is still unknown.
Right.
It leaves a lot of room for speculation, for intrigue. People love a good puzzle, especially one that might never be solved.
It's almost like we can't help but try to fill in the blanks.
Right.
Imagine ourselves as armchair detectives.
Exactly. And then there's the gruesomeness of the crimes themselves.
Yeah.
The brutality, the mutilations, the chilling letters.
Yeah.
It's all very disturbing. But for a lot of people, there's a morbid fascination with that dark side of human nature.
It's like, a car crash that you can't look away from.
Yeah.
You want to understand what could drive someone to do something like that, even if it scares you.
And then, of course, there's the setting, Victorian London.
Right.
A time of great change and upheaval. A city of contrasts with its gaslit streets, its fog-shrouded alleys.
Right.
And these hidden corners of poverty and despair. It's a backdrop that just lends itself to these stories of mystery and intrigue.
It's almost like the city itself becomes a character in the story.
It does, and the combination of all these factors, the unsolved mystery, the brutality, the atmospheric setting,
Right.
It's made Jack the Ripper a cultural icon.
Yeah.
A figure whose name still evokes fear and fascination, over a century later.
It's amazing how one case can have such a lasting impact on so many different things.
It is. And while we may never know the truth, the story of Jack the Ripper, it continues to remind us of the power of storytelling. The complexities of human nature and the enduring allure of the unknown.
It's been a fascinating deep dive, hasn't it?
It has.
So much to think about.
Yeah.
As we wrap up, I can't help but wonder if Jack the Ripper were alive today,
Right.
in our modern world of 2047 news cycles and social media and advanced forensic technology,
Right.
how would his story unfold?
That's a really interesting question. Would he be caught more quickly, or would he find new ways to evade detection?
Right.
Would he be an even bigger media sensation?
Right.
Or would his crimes just be lost in this constant stream of information
Yeah.
that we're all bombarded with every day? It's something to think about.
It is, and it makes you realize that even though the story of Jack the Ripper took place over a century ago,
Right.
the themes it explores, the nature of evil, the search for justice, the power of storytelling,
Yeah.
those are all still relevant today.
Absolutely. And while we may never know who Jack the Ripper really was, his story continues to remind us of the dark side of human nature, the importance of vigilance, and the enduring power of mystery.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Jack the Ripper. We hope it sparked your curiosity and left you with some food for thought. Until next time, keep exploring.
Keep questioning.
Keep questioning and keep those critical thinking skills sharp.